Hi everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. 2009 Subaru Forester, and the owner says this is a nightmare car. 2009 Forester, my friend has one and he calls it the lemon because it has so many problems. So apparently this year a Forester is not very reliable. So what are the customer complaints? He said there's some problem with the ABS system not reading the wheel speed, and it has been to shops, it has been quoted, thousands of dollars. They tried, it looks like a junkyard ABS unit, it looks like spliced wiring. I'm sure they replaced the sensor. And then the second problem is the fan is always on. You can hear it, keys on, the car isn't hot or anything, but the fan is always on. So let's jump in, scan it for codes, and see what we find. So looking at trouble codes, we have P0500 vehicle speed sensor circuit. And in the ABS we have front right ABS sensor signal. Okay, that's why we see all the attempts to fix this right front ABS sensor signal. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind. What about the cooling fans? I have a battery maintainer on the, because the fan is drawing a lot of current right now. Let's go into the engine menu. Let's see if there is a fan command. Blower fan, no. Let's just look up fan. Radiator fan relay 1, relay 2. So they're both on, and right here, both of these relays, main fan 2, sub fan, they both click when I put them in. Now if I take either one of these relays out, the fan on the passenger side stops spinning, but this one's always on. It's crazy. So we'll have to look up a wiring diagram for that. See that one turned on too. Okay, and by the way, the coolant temp is 154 degrees. That's reasonable. So is the... if both relays are on, maybe the fan should be off. So let's take a look at the wiring diagram for this fan. Okay, so there's another relay here, main fan 1, and that one, when it switches on, it puts full power to the main fan motor, and also this main fan relay 2 that goes to sub fan and then gets grounded out through, I guess it puts them in series. So anyways, this relay is always on, but the computer is commanding it on. Why is that? Is it because of a fault with a speed sensor? That's kind of strange. So with a test light, I'll prove to you that the computer is indeed commanding it on. So on the control side, we have a power and hot and runner start. So a test light from battery ground, that's our control power feed. Now, the control wire that goes to the engine computer, this black and red, right to the engine computer. Let's see if that's being grounded. So test light from battery positive. Indeed, we have a test light, and if I turn the key off, it turns off. So that tells me, and look, right there, boom, the computer command is commanding this fan on for whatever reason. So it might be an input problem. What if we clear the trouble code? Will it reset the fan? Clear fault memory. Okay. Yes. Okay. OBD or let's read codes again. Vehicle speed sensor. It's still there. a look. Okay, now let's turn the key off and on. That's crazy. So that's like a limpo mode for any trouble code stored. You'll get the flashing cruise control, and apparently your radiator fan turns on. Okay, now let's go to ECM. Let's see if the relays are commanded on. Or read the fault codes. So it might just be this ABS problem that we're dealing with all along. So read fault code, temporary codes, no codes, memorize codes, no codes, so it doesn't even check the relay circuit. And in our data stream, if you type in fan, they're both off. So there's no problem with the radiator fans. It's just a computer commanding them on. So it's kind of a, you know, I haven't really seen that before in a Subaru. Nothing wrong here. Let's chase this ABS problem. And the owner said the problem started when they replaced the knuckle when they were doing the control arms. Apparently it's all rusted up and they had to replace the knuckle. So we want to go to data stream and look at, I'm sorry, let's go in the ABS menu first and look at the wheel speeds. Alright, just graphing the wheel speeds. Front right is definitely missing. ABS lights on. Well, let's see, does the speedometer work? It does. So considering the problem with the ABS started when the suspension work was done, now what exactly was done? So control arm was replaced and they couldn't get the ball joint out of the control arm or the knuckle, so they replaced the knuckle as well, and the knuckle came with a replacement bearing. Okay, how does this ABS sensor work? Well, I got it out. It's a little flat sensor and it looks at the magnetic ring on the wheel bearing on the inside. So is it possible that the bearing was installed wrong, or it's flipped around and the magnetic ring is on this side of the bearing? That is possible. So how can we prove that? I'm trying to think. We can't really swap a bearing over from the other side, but we can definitely swap sensors and prove that the sensor is good. And I think what we can do is just jump the wires from this sensor, from the harness, over to there, and basically spin this wheel, which we know is known good, and see if the ABS reads the front right speed. That will prove that the module is good, the wiring is good. We can even try the other sensor on this wheel, prove that the sensor is good, and then the only thing left will be the wheel bearing. So we can prove it by process of elimination. Okay, so I think we see the problem. So I took off the other wheel and I'm looking closely into the hole where the sensor lives, and this will be really hard to pick up on camera, but you can see the bearing is actually, get some light in the hole there. See how it steps out? It's almost halfway in the hole because the sensor has to be very close to the bearing surface. Okay? Let's look at the other side at the aftermarket knuckle and see what the air gap is between the sensor and that bearing magnetic ring. So you can see the sensor, the hole is here, and then it's kind of stepped in and then goes this way. So the bearing rides right here. So half of that hole where the sensor lives should be, the bearing should be coming in this way to be close enough to the sensor. On this side, it looks like the entire hole is clear and the bearing magnetic ring is way towards the hub. It's supposed to be another almost a centimeter, so less than half an inch closer to the sensor. No wonder it's not reading a signal. And what's the fix for this? Well, is the bearing installed all the way in? That is a good question. It sure looks like it is. But the problem is here, this aftermarket knuckle, it's never going to work on this car. The sensor is not close enough to the wheel bearing magnetic ring. Pretty crazy. So that's unfortunate for the customer. He's going to have to purchase an OEM knuckle somewhere, maybe find a used one on eBay to save some money, and then we'll have to replace that. That means doing everything again, taking the bearing out, taking the knuckle off, separating the ball joint, and then reinstalling the original sensor because I don't trust aftermarket garbage, and then the car should be fixed. So we'll give the owner an estimate and see if we can get the Subaru back on the road with no warning lights. Alright, let's compare scientifically here how far off this hole is on the knuckle. So if I'm measuring, let's say from the shield, the center of the hole is about 1 centimeter away from the shield, and you can see this casting line goes right almost through the middle of the bolt hole versus this side. So the hub is bolted to the knuckle. There's no like big space in there, it's just a dust shield. But the ABS sensor hole, let's measure. You can see how the hole is moved towards the middle of the car, and the bolt hole is, let's measure from the line to the bolt hole about 4 or 5 millimeters towards the axle instead of towards the wheel. So that's it. The casting of the knuckle is wrong for this vehicle. I mean, it's close, but it's never going to work. So we need to find an OEM knuckle to fix this car. The hub is probably okay. We can't test it with, with the hole in that location. The bearing does look like it does have those magnetic grooves on it or whatever. So that's it. We're gonna try to find one and get this car fixed up. Back to the Subaru Forester with the ABS sensor problem. We got the aftermarket junk knuckle torn off, and now we can clearly see the difference in positioning of this ABS sensor. So you see how close that hole is to the edge. This one is at least 1/4 inch further in. So definitely made the right call there. It's a Subaru genuine part sourced by the customer. There's the part number, and we're going to reinstall the original ABS sensor. I already fixed the sloppy wiring here, so the harness is all good. Let me slap this back together and we'll see if the ABS works fine, and the fans should turn off. Wheels back on, nice and smooth. Original sensor is plugged back in, harness is repaired. Let's plug in the scanner, clear out the codes, and make sure the car can see both wheel speeds. Alright, here's the moment of truth. We're graphing front left and front right wheel speeds. So I'm going to spin the wheel. Simply beautiful. Love it. So we'll take the car for a spin, make sure it's perfect. Some parts required because aftermarket junk. So I want to ask honestly, has anyone ever seen an ABS problem turn on the engine cooling fans full blast all the time? I don't understand Subaru's strategy, but that's the way it is, and my only guess is they just want you to fix whatever problem by making it annoying to drive the car. Turn on all the lights, put it in limp mode, whatever. and then you'll be like, okay, I have to fix my ABS. But for diagnostics, it's not immediately obvious that the ABS is causing the cooling fans to kick on. Just bizarre. But anyways, customer's happy. The OEM knuckle fixed the entire car, so his ABS works now. No more check engine light, cruise control works, like everything because of an aftermarket knuckle. Kind of blows my mind. So I'm going to have to retract this 2009 Subaru Forester's a lemon statement. This one seems to be fine. 230,000 miles. I think the only thing he's had to do is clean the throttle body and replace some suspension parts. Unfortunately, this problem was built in by the previous shop who used cheap aftermarket parts, and then they couldn't figure out why it had a problem. Then they cut up the wiring harness. It kind of snowballed from there. So the only real lemon Subaru is my friend's stick shift 2009 Forester. I have plenty of videos on that one on my channel with the water leaks and the exploding clutch and the migrating valve guides. I don't know, I think that car's possessed, but this one seems to be fine. So thanks all for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.